For 17 years, Andrew Winters had worked on the URI campus, advocating for gay and minority students in an atmosphere that at times bordered on hostile. Winters had repeatedly and publicly pushed the administration to do more for gay and minority students on campus. He tells us there was a systematic effort by the administration to force him out in the first year after David Dooley became URI's 11th president. And that's what happened in June of 2011, when Winters signed a separation agreement with a hefty payout and a gag order, worried that with no job protection, he might be fired and walk away with nothing if he didn't take the university's offer. A consultant called Winters divisive and difficult to work with, and said everyone she had spoken with had no confidence in him. But Vice President Thomas Dugan wrote a glowing letter of recommendation when Winters was forced out, calling him an outstanding presenter with positive feedback on his symposiums.
We have a system in place that a lot of people seem to know about that's prepared to do this to people, and I wanted to see it addressed.
And so did others, including veteran URI physics professor Peter Nightingale, who implored President Dooley and Lauren Adrian, chairman of the Board of Governors at the time, to revisit Winters' case.
And it's completely clear that that process of dealing with complaints is a joke, a sick joke at that, because it turns out you have to complain to those who actually hired the people who did this, and the lawyers who take care of the details work for the basically for the people you're complaining about. It's a farce. They know how to smile, and then they know how to do absolutely nothing. And they say, oh, file these complaints and we'll deal with it. Well, that was actually over 2 years ago.
I call that stonewalling.
Pam Goff, a URI alum who had worked with Winters on the marriage equality issue, wrote Adrian shortly after Winters left campus in 2011 and heard nothing. Adrian was the chairman of the board, which was a party to the separation agreement. Adrian is now running for mayor of Providence.
I've written letters to the Rhode Island Board of Higher Education. I've tried the governor's office, and they were very polite, but nothing ever happens. So I never get any answers to my questions, ever.
Goff didn't stop there, calling Governor Chafee's office several times as well.
And said that they would look into it. And then I was told that I know they were talking about the President Dooley, and they were sure he was not a homophobic man because they knew him. And I said, I never asked that question. This is much bigger than whether or not President Dooley, was homophobic. That wasn't the point. And I wanted to know if there was going to be an investigation.
Dooley has brushed off anybody who has approached him about Winters, including faculty and state lawmakers. And through a spokeswoman, he said he would not do an interview with us because it's a, quote, personnel issue. But Winters tells the Hummel report he's willing to sign a waiver opening up his file and allowing the president to talk about it publicly. Meanwhile, the university has turned the page, hiring Annie Russell to succeed Winters in early 2012. She is the interim director of gender and women's studies, as well as the director of the LGBTQ Center on campus. She came to Rhode Island from the Midwest. During her job interview at URI in the fall of 2011, Russell heard about the administration's plans, including construction of a new LGBT center, one of the things students had requested during an 8-day sit-in back in 2010.
For me, hearing a group of people say, well, we're going to build a building dedicated to these issues, dedicated to students, faculty, and staff, that was huge. That was an opportunity that I thought was something that was exciting, certainly innovative.
The center will cost a total of $2.1 million, nearly all of it funded out of the university's general revenues, and is expected to be complete by sometime next year. Russell said she also saw an institutional commitment to funding the LGBT program.
A brand new budget, a staff, undergraduate staff members, as well as another full-time staff and a graduate assistant. Those were things that were incredibly attractive and represented an institutional commitment to LGBTQ issues in a way that I had never seen before.
Russell said when she arrived, she wanted to make some changes to the center itself, located on the first floor of Adams Residence Hall.
It was white walls, it was very kind of plain, no posters, no kind of iconography of the queer community, things like that, which I think are important, right? People want to see themselves in the space that they inhabit.
When you came here, were there marching orders on what to do, or was it you have kind of a clean tablet, or was it a combination of both in terms of the work you were expected to do?
Good question. No, there were actually absolutely no marching orders. And so for me, it was about hearing people and hearing what their experiences had been on the campus and what they wanted to see happen on this campus.
Most of our students, when I was on campus at least, weren't really openly gay about it because it's not something that's really accepted even until this day and age.
Douglas Tondro is straight, but had a gay roommate at URI and saw firsthand some of the homophobic activity on campus. Tondro graduated 2 years ago, but stays in close contact with students who are still there, including a number of those in the LGBT community. He says many of the more vocal students have taken a step back, not as quick to proclaim their sexual identity.
The environment that existed before is no longer one that exists, and a lot of students don't really express themselves. And I know when I was there, I was kind of essentially a rebel who would always say, what, we need to make these changes, let's make it happen. I would knock on everyone's door until I seen it, and now that's not happening anymore.
The Hummel Report has spoken with other students who have left the LGBT Center and its programming, in part because they had loyalty to Andrew Winters. Others do not like the way it is being run now. Russell says she believes URI is a much better place for LGBT students than it was a few years ago.
There has been a significant improvement as it relates to people's feeling of inclusion on this campus as queer individuals, as well as the larger campus's understanding of queer issues.
And Russell says the administration and President Dooley have been supportive of initiatives she has presented in her first 2 years.
Being on this campus has been a significant change for me. I'm used to, as an administrator in LGBTQ issues, having to fight against the institution to create change, which is what my job says I'm supposed to be doing. It hasn't been that way at this institution. Everywhere I go and every policy that we've attempted to enact or do something different or make a change, I don't get no's. I get yeses and how can we help? And that has been a refreshing change in my opinion.
In Kingston, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.